Welcome to the Language of Markets live session. Oh, it's a new month, right? It's the 3rd, Manic Monday. Off to the coffee cup, right, Al? All right, it's a new month. I give everybody a fresh start. You're all brand new this month. Doesn't matter what you did. Good, bad, ugly, especially the ugly. Brand new. New possibility this month. See what happens, right? So it's the weekend. You know, maybe you had your business meeting, right, Phil? Just take a look at what went on. Don't be too judgmental, right? You did it already, so see what happened there. And again, the whole thing is learning and learning all over the place from everything. Hey, Nate had an ugly May. Business meeting was uncomfortable. Yeah, I didn't say they're always comfortable, right? You're fired. Yeah, they're not always comfortable. But actually, Nate, it's those ugly ones we can really learn the most from. The trick is not to get too judgmental about it. Otherwise, that kind of shuts the learning. But it's those that we can learn the most from. And so, we got to pay attention to those. Sometimes the bumps in the road are there to show us, hey, listen, this is where you're stuck. Listen, this is where you're stuck. All right. But it's a brand new month. You're brand new, Nate. We get a fresh start. All right, here's what we're going to do today. You don't have sound, Rita? Rita. Somebody tell Rita something on her end there. Sound is good, Rita. It's just you. Universe picking on you today. Grace says sometimes it's like a cobblestone bumpy. Yeah, sometimes it's also like a broken glass bumpy, Grace. You never know. Yeah, just pop out, come back, and we'll get going in a minute. Check your speakers and all that good stuff. Different all the time. All right, so I'll catch Rita when she gets back. So here's what we're going to do. So we looked at, we're going to learn. We looked at a basic idea for viewing the market, just called a pressure cooker. We went over the 240. I gave some simple instructions. We're going to spend some time creating this and rules for it that are objective and simple as a way to learn from price and as a way to pull a lot of this stuff out and make decisions based on something, or at least to see and view the market and the waves. So we just barely touched on this, gave some simple instructions so you can practice. And that's going to be the tenor, it's going to be the direction for a little while. So a lot of things will be keying off of that. A lot of things will be keying off of this. For one thing, we can just note and look at something very simple about it, and that is, well, they were going up and they started, this is the place they threw these people off the cliff. Okay, that's very simple. And if we can find a place that they threw the people off the cliff, then that becomes a significant marker for us. So if we could figure out where they decided, hey, we're going now, then that becomes a marker we can use. So let's keep that in mind. And I told you guys we were going to look at some tick charts. So let's go and look at today's oil and kind of set ourselves up. and see if some of our lessons that we've learned last week could have been brought into today's oil market. Yes, Nate, oil. What do you mean not oil? What's wrong with oil? Is that where your bad month came from? That's where you lost all your money? Yeah, that's where your bad month came from. Nate, you can see oil really changed its volatility, right? Oil really changed its volatility from here to here, and so that's something you can look at. You can see it just got completely changed in that part of May. So yeah, if you look, May is when it just actually made the decision to throw them off the cliff. I don't think oil's real psycho. See, this is one of the things I want to look at, Edward. Edward said oil's kind of psycho. That's what we're here doing. Because you're an idiot. It could be. That happens, sometimes. Okay. I didn't get my short, so I decided to try pullbacks. So dumb. Yeah. Yeah, but look, Nate, you saw it. That's what you're doing, right? I mean, if you did it on oil, you'll do it on the Aussie. And so that's such a good thing to learn, right? I know it ain't so comfortable while you're in it. I get that. But, until we learn these things about ourselves, you can't do anything with them. You can't do anything with them. And so that's kind of the beauty, although it's very uncomfortable in the meeting. I understand. I have plenty of business. As a trader, we have a business meeting every day in the form. We got to look at ourselves in the mirror. And so now Edward said, yeah, the CL's been a bit psycho in a readable way. And that's what we're here doing, right? We're here to take the psycho and see if it's readable. That's all. And I'm going to show you, ways we can go about taking the psycho out and taking, all our stuff out of it. So let's just look. So what I like to do, before I get to where I'm going to trade this morning, and this is what I did this morning. All right. I'm going to back it up. Okay. I'm going to back it up. And, oils, I come into this morning, somewhere around here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to back it up and just get in touch with this guy. Okay. And then we're going to see if any of the lessons, were applicable. And we're just going to look now. And this might seem boring and it might seem exciting for some. But this is what leads to a trade. I mean, like a real trade where you kind of know what you're doing with the trade. All right. So as I come in, I'm not going to look at too much. I'm just going to walk it through. Okay? I'm going to walk you through what I did. I see price. It's, it's kind of congested. And then I'm watching it. And these are like swings for me. Okay, and now we're pulling back. And I'm watching it again. And basically, we keep on going from at least in here. Same size swings, you notice, Phil? I didn't even see that. Just kind of, sometimes I'm a little slow, Phil. So, okay, yeah, I'm working that. You see the same size. And so what do you see in this, Phil? Because I noticed this. So what do you see? We got same size, same size. It's kind of like this. Kind of like this. And now kind of like this. kind of taking off. Everybody kind of see that? It's good stuff to see. See, same size. It's kind of just loping, and now we're in a bit of a hurry, just like the model. What are you posting, Grace? Go to meeting link for Winston? Oh, Winston, you got to go to the page. You get it? Okay. Yeah. If you have trouble, email me later, Winston. It's right on the home front page. You'll just grab it from there every morning, and it changes once a month. All right. Thank you, Grace. So we see this, right, Phil? Okay. I'm just noticing. So let's keep walking it. All right. We're pulling back. Pulling back a little deeper. Now what do you guys see? I mean, feel it from here, okay? Feel it from here, and now it's swing down, yes, but here's what I want to get across. All right? We're going up. Okay, we have a pullback. Okay, we've had a deep pullback before. Pressure was expanding up, now it's expanding down, right? But get a little deeper into this. So, feel the buyers. So it's like this swing and this swing, okay? And so this, right, you could still feel sort of a struggle going on. You could still see, a struggle for this pullback. Okay, you can still see a struggle for this pullback. And then, now watch the bars. Because this is the point I want to get across about this. Bar press level. It's a bar expansion level, Grace. This is a gap. See, this is a press, and this is like, remember, Grace, a press is going to be bars pulling into each other. So a press is going to be more like, a bar press is going to be more like this. And what we're looking at now is more like this. You see the difference? See, that's a bar press. And then what we're looking at now is more like, whoom. See? If I were to draw it, it's just. And so, yeah, that's a little bit different than that. Okay, good. So you see that. And the point I'm making is, if we look at this, okay, if we look at this, we know there was a feeling of up. We know there was buyers up, and this could have went or could not have went. But the point is, right here is where they threw them off the cliff. So I just want to notice that. Okay? I want you to notice this is where they threw them. This is where they threw the up people off the cliff. Right? We were going up. We give it that old, that old college try here. So remember, this is our last swing. Okay? As Phil noted. So see how we're structuring this. Okay? Swing, swing. So this is our last swing. And so we can look and see, okay, this is where they were going to try and do that, but this is where they threw them off the cliff is really all I want to get a hold of right now. This is where they threw them off the cliff. Right here. Everybody understand that? And we can see it through the price action because it's doing one of these, something like that. It's doing a gap. It's doing a relative gap, and we can see the urgency in the selling. Okay? So we all see that. This is where they threw them off the cliff. This is where they decided, we're throwing you off the cliff right there. Okay. That one little distinction, no matter if we're doing a pressure cooker or this or that or a gap, this is a marker. If you can see all by itself, this is where they threw them off the cliff. And you also need to see it to the upside too, okay? They throw them up the cliff. I know it sounds weird, but the same thing goes for the upside as goes for the downside. I know we talk like gravity and stuff when we're looking at a chart. Up and down is the same thing though. So this is where boom, they threw them off the cliff. Maybe if it's going up, they threw them up the cliff. I don't know. And so that becomes an important distinction that takes that chaos that Ed mentioned and says, you know what? It's not all that much chaos anymore. Look, I got same size swings, Phil saw. I got a swing broke. And I got the place that they throwed them off the cliff. Okay, so from that, this becomes just a marker for us. I mean, we can see it, okay? We can see it right in here, in all of this. Okay, we can see it. We can draw this a lot of ways. We can do this coil like this, okay? And same thing. But this is the part, right? There's a feel of buyers and sellers. Buyers. Nope. Okay, so that becomes important. So let's see what happens. Make a new low. We're screaming up hard into it. We got a tail, so some sellers are showing up here. We reverse that tail. We're going up. We're going up. Outside bar up. We're in a big hurry. Now, since Phil marked the swings for us, anybody have any idea how we draw a median line set if we wanted to? I mean, not to leave median lines out. I kind of do because people tend to look for tests and retests off of them and, like there's some sort of channel. But do you guys know when I draw, I know where I'm drawing from? So I'm not just drawing randomly. I can draw randomly, right? If I wanted to, I can draw just to see where the channel is. But yeah, Raj, I can draw it off the last swing broke here because I know that's the last swing broke because Phil showed us. And this is how you start to see where Andrew says, right? There's a high probability of reaching the median line. This is a cycle where price can either gap through it or reverse. So if I had none of this, I would draw a median line set here and look to see what price did right here. Hey, Evan, is it always the last swing broke? No, you can draw from whatever you want, Evan, but just I'm saying know what you're measuring. But I personally, most of the time, draw swing to swing. But I'm saying that's a lot different than just coming up here and, fishing for a particular line that looks like it's got a lot of hits on it. But what I'm saying, Evan, is once you can do this little maneuver here, when you draw, now you know what you're measuring, okay? If you wanted to, you'd put it over here. You know you're measuring that whole piece of structure. And if you draw this, you know what you're measuring, right? You know what you're measuring. This is measuring for this blue to turn right here. And so if you mark your swings out like that, you know what you're measuring. And I generally just go swing by swing like this. Swing. Oh, look, there's a high probability of reaching the median line. And then, I'll draw the upward. Oh, look, there's a high probability of reaching the median line. Hey, Grace, what about the downsloper off the top? Oh, we just did that. Grace, when you draw the downsloper off the top, do you know what that shows you? Because that's going to be into one of our lessons at some point. So I'm assuming you're talking about drawing the downsloper from here. Right? Good, good. It shows you the expansion possibility of this guy, right? That's what it's showing you, that expansion possibility. Yes. It's saying maybe these babies are going to grow up into a bigger one. Yes, very good, very good. See, now Grace is using her median lines in a very precise way, saying this is showing me the expansion of this blue doubling out and possibly just making a bigger swing. And so you see that, Evan? That's this is what Nate did live. You see this? I just switched to a NASDAQ daily. This is what Nate did live over here. He drew this last swing to gauge the possibility of an expansion. Do you piece that together, Evan? And so this isn't a median line lesson today, but if it comes up, we'll talk about it. And so what it's saying, in this particular median line set, what it's doing, it's saying, well, maybe these baby swings, okay, maybe these baby swings are going to just grow up to be a bigger swing. Now, it's got the possibility of the three types of trades. It could be a bigger swing or it can be a reversal, either or. Aha. Thought you only had one side, didn't you? So it could be a baby swing that's just growing up, or it can actually be a reversal, okay? And so when we drew this and everybody's freaking out on the NQ daily, it's like, boom. Now, unfortunately, it didn't offer an easy trade with a, to do risk with. But sometimes it does, okay? Sometimes it does. And so this is the same idea. And the reason this thing is all squared off is because that extra push at the top. And so this becomes a place to think about, well, maybe this is just going to be a bigger swing. Now, if this is just going to be a bigger swing, look at my model and look at the price. Then when price gets back here, it's got a decision to make, to either go like this or go like this. And right now, where you're looking at price is in this decision right here. See? See model and everything? Evan says it's a new way of looking at ML for me. No, that's good. That's, just get a taste of that because, when we do ML lessons, I've been doing this for years. I don't just draw channels and look for hits. I draw and measure precisely. I want to know what I'm looking at, what I'm looking for. So if I know I'm drawing off of this swing, guess what, Evan? I know I'm either thinking about a reversal here or a new up move. And so this way I'm more in the loop and not just, oh, I have a swing, I have a median line that has a lot of hits on it, and I got to test and I got to retest and the separation bar, and and I can check all this off and make a setup out of it. And that's just trading blindly. This is just trading, with full recognition of what you're doing. And when you begin to see it like this, it becomes clear. This little piece of structure becomes clear to you. See, we did this in the weekly bonds. So it really doesn't matter. And then we can actually build setups and research it and all that stuff. So when price gets here, we know we either, missed the long for the big one, or there's a possibility of this whole thing reversing. All right, so a little median line lesson. So let's watch. So price is up here. It's nice. It's looking good. Comes down. We got a tail. We got a tail. We got a tail. I'm just marking it because it's one of our things, It's buyers picked it up, sellers hit it. Sellers hit it, buyers holding it. Sellers hit it, buyers holding it. Okay, so we learned something from that. All right, and by the way, does this fit our basic instructions for like we did for the Euro 240? We were just saying, hey, let's look and see, where they threw them off the cliff from, and then see what happens when it comes back. So basic it fits the basic. All right. The thing to take away is this is where they threw them off the cliff from. Okay, so let's keep watching price. Let's keep going. They're struggling down here. What did they just do? Threw them off the cliff again, didn't they? Pressed them right off the cliff, didn't they, Phil? All right. What's the difference now in this throwing them off and this throwing them off? And if you're watching the recording, play along, see if you can see. So what's the difference in these two? So they both have the attribute of being coiling and thrown off the cliff, both of these two that I've marked in red. But there's a distinction to be made. And this is kind of how some of these frameworks get built, by making this further distinction. Yeah, right? Thank you, Phil, Pete. It's not, I don't think it's a bigger swing. It actually looks like the same size reaction leg or close to it. This is the same size reaction leg. But as Gary mentions, right, it's outside of the swing while this one is inside of the swing. And Phil mentions that too. One is in center of leg and one's in base. If you tighten that up, Gary or Raj, one's in the center of which leg? Right, and one's at the at the bottom. But that's exactly right, Gary. See, I know it seems like a simple thing, right, Gary? But just noticing this, all of a sudden, it does something with the supply dynamics. There's a difference when people are still thinking about going long up here and they throw them. And then there's another difference when they're already puking it out and then they throw them. Do you see that, Gary? Do you see that little subtlety? You can feel it. You can feel it. Yes. See, Gary, if you add those little things into your repertoire, it comes out later in trading. This is what we're doing here. We're mapping this thing. It's a language. And there's little things like this. And it's not that hard to see, right? You noticed it. But then you take it a step further, right? They were still going long here when they decided to throw them off. Here, they were already going off the cliff, and they just decided to give them an extra kick. And that's a little different, so that, they're really coming out now with that, the place is on fire, and we have to all try to squeeze through the same exit. Or, you know, let's all run to one side of the boat at the same time, and then run to the other because it's tipping. Okay, so we watch that. This one actually goes through and holds. That's interesting. That's interesting. And so, you know, just out of curiosity here, we're going to watch the swings. So we see a little swap-a-roo. This is kind of where Nate might get in trouble, right? He sees a little swap-a-roo, but, you know, you can only get so much if it goes down, keeps going down. But there is a little swap-a-roo there. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's a little swap-a-roo. I get in trouble here, too. You know, you're playing for more, but if you get this size of the swing already, you know, you're... And again, like Evan, you know, we can measure. We can throw our little median line set up there. See how I'm going swing to swing, Evan? See? Hit the median line. See, I'm not playing it like a channel. That's the difference. That's one of the biggest misunderstood things about median lines. I'm not playing it like a channel. I'm playing it to see the swing. This is what Andrews did, swing to swing. Oh, my mistake was much more basic, Nate says. Still too traumatic to talk about the specifics. Well, talk to John and Grace, you know. You guys could share trauma. I'm going to leave my trauma out of it for now. It all heals, huh? And so Grace says, I have plenty, don't worry. All right, so let's watch, right? So let's watch. We get up here, you want to get curious, right? You know, you're live, you want to watch this thing. Okay, you got swings, same thing. I got swings, I'm watching swings, I'm watching swings. Oh, it's a little bit bigger. Just a flat out swap-a-roo. Okay, now don't forget, guys, we're going to keep marking swings. Major swings, minor swings, everything. Yeah, I kind of notice. I can't help but notice things now. You know, look at that tail. See the tail sticking out? See the tail sticking out? There it is. Woof. See, that's a cycle. Everybody see this little cycle? I just learned that right now. I didn't see that live. Everybody see this little cycle? Evan, isn't this doing the same thing as doing this? Aren't these the same animals, Evan? It's a minor cycle, right, Grace? But it's still the same? And watch. Let me just, you know, we can. All right, I'm going to bend your mind. See how I drew the green lines? Where do the green lines go if I was going to continue this? See how I got the green lines marking? And then we go through and cycle? Let's call this the minor. And we can call this the major, and they look the same to me. So where might the green lines go on the major? This is cool. I didn't even see this earlier. At the what mountain? Which mountain base rise? Grace says I would put them at the gap up. Okay, follow my model here, right? Last swing broke. We bust it. And does I want everybody to make sure they see the cycle. This is the cycle. See, it's a cycle. It's a sine wave. And look where I put the green lines. And if I was to do this with this, where do my green lines go, and where is the retest. So here's the retest. And so we can look at a couple things, right? We can see, I don't want to boggle minds too much. We can see there could be some green lines here or right here. See, now we're just kind of getting into fractaling things out. But I don't know, I just thought I'd ping you on that. You know, cycles. All right, let's leave that alone for now. Just thought it was interesting. So we can draw very specifically once we understand swings is the basic lesson. The language of the CL. All markets do that though. So let's keep watching. Let's simplify this some more. All right, boom. Where'd they throw him off the cliff? We see, right? Look at this. Struggle, 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 struggle. We're going up, we're going up, we're going up, and you can see them. This is right here. They tossed them. This is where they were not going to step up and swing. So this is where they tossed them off the cliff. Everybody see that as true? You know, again, I never want you guys to just believe me because it's so easy to just, you know, roll through things and say this is this, but I want you guys to have the ability to do something objective and then ask yourself if it's true, and then you could say, hey, wait a minute, you're bending things a little bit, Shane. And so this is true, right? This is where they threw them. You got a new low. And same thing here. This is where they threw them, got a new low. It's where they tossed him right off that cliff. Yeah, that's what we're looking for, Phil. We're trying to get this mastery of ourselves and this independence for ourselves. Absolutely. Absolutely. I see so many teachers that are just so fearful that if the student learns, they won't need the teacher anymore, you know. And that's not a cool way to be. Hey, Evan, about the same level as the one before. Yeah, but so it's true. So now let's watch and learn what happens. Because I'm showing you what went through my eyes this morning as, you know, I'm watching markets. Oh, okay. And, you know, I'm watching about the same size. Yeah. And so all of this gives me ideas or ideas, you know, for a trade. Ideas in washing, if you're from the Midwest, you can wash. Zoom, what got zoom? I'm just going to move a little quicker now. This structure here, this coil pop, very similar to this one. Yeah, I'm just noticing this coil pop, come back and retest. Coil pop, retest, coil pop, retest, zoom, zoom. Okay, we're just noticing. And so this is where they threw them, and this is where they returned to a couple times, it looks like. See, they returned a couple times. And they even poked the top of this guy, didn't they? And so you can kind of see, and the swing's bigger, though. All of a sudden, the swing got bigger. Okay, that's interesting. All of a sudden, the swing expanded a little bit, and it still rolled down. It made a bigger swing. So we now know, hey, that can happen. Okay, well, it's not the same size anymore, and it didn't change direction. It just grew a little bit. Okay, so that's interesting. But basically, the lesson, you know, if you just come in here, you know, marking your swings, this lesson about where they threw them off the cliff, and it's pretty clear, there was something we could do with that. And not only that, this last one, before the session came up, I was watching this last one. This last one comes with one of the pivot requirements, meaning, okay, we have a tail. So now we're at a bar level. And we're zooming that tail. So that's one of the pivot requirements, a tail on the left and a zoom or gap on the right. And so, a couple things just come right into play here. Now, maybe you can't afford the whole stop, maybe not, but it's still the requirement in there. But either way, you should get a handle on, the direction of this market. But now that we have this, we can say, okay, this is a new one. So let's look and see if this is easy. If we can see where they threw them off the cliff this time. It looks like they threw them off the cliff. Jeez, this one's a little complicated. I know they threw them here, but they started up here, guys. This one was so near the low, well, we're going to mark it anyways. It looks like they actually started here, and this is just a continuation, but that looks pretty good. This has got a few nuances to it, but we'll mark it. And so this offered a few ideas, okay? And we're going to get into the instructions and stuff, but you know what I want to do? With the time we have here, let's invent something. Let's create. That's one of the reasons I started this, right? I want to create. Let's create something. And it's something we've pointed out before, and it's something I've talked about for years, and it's something I've talked about with students, but we've never really made it solid. And today I was seeing it all over the place. And I was thinking, this is the perfect place for us to create. Okay, so if we're looking at this chart, say from here, get a feel for what price does. Can anybody describe the action, say, starting from this starting point and, ending, I don't know, just say ending down here? How would you describe that action? So somebody help me out for words here. And if you're watching the recording, speak this to yourself. Write it down. See if you can come. How would you describe that? I mean, you know what we've been learning with swings or gaps or whatever, and pressure and urgency. What's pretty methodical, Nate? I see two pieces, right? As I look at this, guys, I see two pieces. I see this all as one piece. And then I see this, Nate, all as one piece. And this is what I see as methodical. Does that make sense? Yes, Winston says gapped up and drifted down in swings. All right, okay, Nate. So Nate, now you've clarified, right? The move down is methodical. And then Winston topped us off. We always got to be careful of this, right? We don't want to miss. Even though we think we know, we don't want to miss things. And so, yes, this is methodical, because if we can make these distinctions, everybody see that? We go up fast, hard up, and Phil says floating down. Yes, I had one student used to call it a parachuting. This was and we worked on this for a while. This was like 8 years ago. But let's do something with this. Yeah, I called this was parachuting down. So we go hard up and we're parachuting down. Right, or floating down. It's organized, come down. So gap up, organized, come down. We'll have to think about that. And then we'll think about how we put a rule to it. parachuting? I hope not. Well, this is free falling, Ed, right? And this is after you know, you have to reverse things. So a gap is a gap is free falling, and then you pull the chute, right? And then you start floating. Hopefully. Hopefully you start floating. And hopefully you don't break a leg most of the time. That first solo trip is scary. Hopefully. If it doesn't work, there's not much to worry about, is there? It's not like you're going to spend a lot of time suffering. Just enjoy the ride. What are you going to do? All right. So we have this gap up, this big run up, and then this floating down. So it basically looks like this. Whoosh. And then, okay, now follow me. It's coming down into the big mountain base, right? But it's coming down in a certain way, right, Phil? It's coming down floating to the mountain base. Good. So Phil says this is coming down towards the projected base, basically. It's float, but it's not in a hurry. It's not Ving. It's not Uing. It's floating. Okay. So if this is like a gap, there's a type of urgency to the buyers in here, right? Bum, bum, bum. We all need to reposition. Maybe big people are short and they're piling on. Maybe they're piling on long. Who knows? We don't know. But all we know is there's a pile of money coming in, and it's just standing on there and just pushing this up. And then when we finally pull back, what is the feeling here? Does it look like sellers are hammering it, or does it look like buyers are trying to do something? I know I'm going through this with some pains, but bear with me because we're going to do something with this. So from the top, Grace, right, you can feel the buyer's urgency. Now, let's walk it through. And then all of a sudden that urgency starts to shift. But it's not like there's seller urgency. So if you had to guess, say, what was happening here every time this thing, boom, boom. Okay, now boom, boom. Okay, now boom, boom. What would you guess at that, Grace? You know, what would you guess would be going on? Because you got a feeling with this. Maybe you're trying to get long, you couldn't get long. There's a feeling, right? There's a feeling that, and then all of a sudden it's pulling back, and it's starting back up again. There's a feeling, and that's like organized selling, right, Rita? But there's a feeling of nobody could get in long. Look, I mean, you try to buy something down here, and they just step in front. You try to buy, they just step in front of you, boom, right? And then all of a sudden, price is pulling back, and tries are getting hit. Pete says yes. And I like what Phil said. Phil said the buyers are trying, controlling buyers, letting sellers take it down. Maybe, but we don't know that, Winston, right? We don't know who's really in control yet, and who's letting who do what. But think about it like this. I can see just from the type of action that, to me, it looks like, you know, swing traders are now trying to get long here. Didn't work. Swing traders are now trying to get long based on this impulse. Has anybody ever did this? You know, price does something, it's making these big impulsive moves, okay? And it's making these big impulsive moves. And I know everybody's done this. Hang on. So it's making these big impulsive moves, okay? And then price finally starts to pull back. And you're thinking, okay, maybe I can get long here. And it tries. Doesn't work. And then you say, okay, maybe that was too close. Maybe I can get long this one. Anybody ever do this? And you see a little confirmation, and it doesn't work. And then you go back a little farther in the chart, right? This is for you people that go way back, and you say, maybe I can use this one. And anybody ever hit support zones long, until price was down here? Anybody ever do that? You guys know what I'm talking about? Because the mood was up, and then okay, this is logical. Okay, maybe this is logical, and this is kind of how we get stuck, right? And we just keep hitting, and this is really bad for you guys who go back in time frame, because you'll find all sorts of new. So imagine this market turns up at some point. So people are going to sell that. Then they're going to sell that. Imagine it keeps going up. Then they're going to sell that. And then maybe somewhere up here they give up, and that's when it'll turn. But if you're using something like this and you're hitting every sell zone and it's driving through you, and guess what? That's what the market's been doing for a month or two. Come on, guys, look at it. Look at this. See this? On a daily, every piece of support, it's just been driving through on a smaller time frame chart. This was yay, and then this can keep going down through this support and this support and this support and this support. And you can see the people on the way up. They tried to hit that resistance. 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 I give up, and boom. And so that's what happens. Okay? That's the feeling. All right, so we get the idea. And Stephen says, oh yeah, through August 2011 when I should have been short. Yeah, and you just keep going and hitting every one. And we all have our own little twist to this. Nate says, I've done that, and Edward too many times. Nate says, this is how fib traders used to trade, right? They'd start out with, I don't have it, but let's hit the 382. No, let's hit the 486. No, let's hit the 782. No, let's hit the secret 88.3624 divided by pi and the golden ratio doubled. That's the secret one. No. Let's hit the negative one. And see, that happens. Why? Because they're protecting their stupid method. And all methods are stupid if you protect them. So this is what happens. Now, if we understand that, and if all of us have done this, and we know ourselves, well, this is going on with other people too. Nate says, I would say I saw the price action that Shane went over and yet still held my long until it retraced the gap. My mind was not willing to accept what happened. Yes, that's good. Good. I'm glad you see it. You were protecting your position, your investment in that, Nate, right? Your mind was not willing to let that go until your discipline said let that go and you had enough. And we all do that. That's part of the internal side, yes. It's an emotional investment, absolutely. And it's a protection. We have to protect, just like the fib traders have to protect their method. And they used to be worse than the Kool-Aid cults. I mean, they were nuts. They were a scary bunch, weren't they? They were a scary bunch. And then, it comes along all the time. But if we understand some simple things, so what happens here is basically, so this was a long go-around just to explain something. So what happens is you have this big move, and then this floating down is how we see it. And as Rita says, it's organized, and as Phil says, it's just floating. And what's happening a lot of times is every time it starts up, the long traders are trying it. The long traders are trying it. The long traders are trying it based off of this impulse. And don't get me wrong, there's a flip side to this where it works, okay? But I'm going to show you this a couple times today because I want to work this as a setup that we can play either way. I want to work this as a particular thing because it's very visual and it's very easy to see. Impulse, floating. Generally, what I like to do with these, is often catch probably the first one, to hopefully give me a chance. But, these can go against you too. But let's just watch. So this is what happens. And Nate says there's sort of a 5-count pivot that leads to the final expansion. Yeah, this is where I used to do pivot counting. And if I saw a final expansion above this, Nate, that was like a P5, it could be a P6. I was just looking for a final. Then that's where I'd punch my swing in. Okay, so we got the gist of this. Now, let's go look at it in, say, a few other things. Because we're going to start collecting. But either way, the oil offered some decent opportunities today that weren't bad. Some decent opportunities today that weren't bad. This is a guy I've been following over here. Oh, we got to follow up real quick. This is where we left it. Marking gaps. Boom, huh? Not bad. See, that didn't take me all of 20 seconds. I know that this is where my try is going to be. And so, okay, now I'm going 30 seconds. There, I'm mapped. Continue, 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 continue. Done. Either hit it or leave it be. $240 Swiss. So now we're kind of leaving off the pressure cooker right now. I just wanted to get in that this is where they threw him off the cliff part. We're going to go back to that for at least a week or two. But let's work this little pattern. Everybody see the straight up? Everybody feel the urgency, the impulse? On a very smaller scale, this is the same way. See the impulse, see the floating down, but it holds near the base. Everybody see that? Remind me, we'll go take a look at this on a smaller time frame. Because this is kind of what I'm talking about. All right, so this impulse is the equivalent of all that impulse. So they're all happy. They're all happy. They're all happy. Okay, they're doing their first real pullback. This is their first real pullback. It's trying. See, it's trying. You know, we see that they throw them off the cliff from here. I got to work on playing with borders and everything for these guys. Huh. All right. Now look, we're now eating up into this whole. So remember, this is all gap. This is all emptiness. Okay? What I mean by emptiness and gap, it's empirically the same as a gap. See, this is a gap. There's emptiness. And what I mean by emptiness is that These are the equivalent of one-lotters, okay? Hopping on. If you actually watch the books as it goes by, these are the equivalent of one-lotters. And do you really expect one-lotters to protect their position? No. No. See these guys who turned it around down here? That's where some of the money is. And so this is why it's all gap, even though it doesn't look like a gap. And Nate notices that Nate sees the press. Good. I'm glad your eyes are really tuning to that, Nate. Because that works into some subtle structure work later on, okay? Nate sees, but feel it, Nate, right? Feel it? There's a reason, right? See the pressing going on here? So you feel why the expansion all of a sudden happens right here? Did Grace see that? I see a slope start and then okay, you too, Grace, I saw that. Okay, boom, I missed you. As long as Grace, you and Nate see that, right? Do you see that there was still kind of a struggle at the lows and then people just have to reposition now? Yeah, good little distinctions. Very good, very nice. Very nice. We'll use this stuff later, but right now, let's 86 it. Okay, so now we're pulling back into this gap. We're pulling back into this gap, and this is the place where, it looks like we're going to turn baby swings into something bigger. And so you can feel the longs. It actually started here, right? You guys get this? Right here, we were going to turn all these little baby swings. We got baby swings, and we're going to turn them into something bigger now, okay? Right there. And instead, we do that. All right. Now, okay, maybe it's going to come in here, and now it's time to go. You feel these longs that are inside this gap impulse somewhere, giving it a shot. So you feel the floating? You feel the up hard, the floating down? Now, do you see the longs are going to give it a shot? Just look at the speed Grace and Nate noticed, right? Once you came out of this, we went like this. But once we came out of this swaparoo, see, once we came out of this swap, we expanded. Once we came out of this swap, we're not doing the same. We're floating. Going a little fast. Where'd they throw him off the cliff? Agreed? Might as well practice our lessons while we're in here. And by the way, Rita, this is not much different than your one-line work. All right? You're going to see how I tie this all together. And so for any of you using a specific method, don't come off of it. Just soak some of this in. Because all of these methods and such, they all have a tie-in. They actually all have a flow with each other. Good, Rita. You like this? So when I'm using a pressure cooker or a press or a gap, here's what I want you to see eventually. I don't think many people ever see this. But all of these things actually have a process and flow into each other. Even though we might be using one method one day and another method the other day, they all actually flow into each other. And so the one-line press stuff, Rita, it flows into this pressure cooker kind of thing. It's just we're putting it in a specific place. And the pressure cooker is often a minor gap versus a major gap. So it all flows. And so just give it some time. But you see the impulse and and that's current. Okay? So do you see how, I mean, look at this. We spent a month and a half going up. And do you see how that can put people to sleep? That when it starts to come down, they're kind of hard to adjust. I mean, that's happened to me. That's happened to me. Okay? When you spend a good amount of time doing this, and then, oh, I finally get a chance for my pullback. And then it just keeps going against you. And so you don't adjust because you just get so entranced because the market won't quit going one way. And so we need to, adjust ourselves and at least read it. So this follows that basic impulse and then float in a very organized way. And when you can tune into this, it's easy money. Because see where they won't let you get long? Look at how many times they let you get short on the way down because buyers are picking at it, because the buyers don't get it yet. The buyers don't get it yet. And that's why it keeps bouncing up in an organized fashion. The buyers don't get it yet that somebody's feeding it to them. And they just keep hitting support levels. They start with that support level, and then they just keep hitting support levels all the way. This is one of the reasons, we look for certain confirmations. Let's see if we see this somewhere else. There's someplace else we saw this, and we can finish today with a little more bar by bar lesson. Okay. This one was an oddball shape, but it was pretty easy to see. So if we're here and we're doing swings and we're thinking about our market, right? Let's just look at it. Basically we have this. We're up here. And this is how I come into my market today with the CAD. And we're going to take this, into live. Doing this is really how we find these distinctions, kind of just discovering them like this. So let's just tune in and say, okay, we got a swing thing going on here. Something like that. We have a nice impulse. Now let's just work the market. We have a small swing. Looks like it's organized. So this is our impulse up. Okay, we're pulling back. We're trying. No. Okay, now we're making a swing this way. Now notice we're pulling into this gap, right? So it's still kind of up, up. I mean, just look at this market, up, 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 and away, at least from here. So we're pulling into this emptiness. We're pulling into this gap. Maybe, you know, it was nice. It was a nice little swapperoo. Okay, something like this. So we're pulling into this gap here, and we're trying. Everybody should get the sense that we're floating, right? Price is floating. Everybody get the sense that we're still floating up, that we're still in long mode. It's kind of subtle, but there should be a sense, especially, you know, we just made a high and we're pulling back. Okay? We just made a high and we're pulling back. And we're still basically in, you know, we're still basically in long mode here. Just like that. You get that sense, Grace? That even though it's coming down, we're still in long mode here. Okay. Floating. Oh. Does everybody see the cliff that got thrown? Everybody see that? Everybody see the shift in mood from this to this outside bar is actually where they decided. You can see. It's right there. And the best way to see it is just go higher high, lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low. All right, you see it, Pete. Okay, good. So this is where they threw them off the cliff. So I'm emphasizing the throwing off the cliff in today's lesson. We have a swing. We have a major. We have a minor. Now look, we're still in this mountain phase, right? And now we're returning. Now, one of the things I want to get across to you trading-wise, one of the things I want to get across to you trading-wise is just being able to do this. Okay? You have a gap, making a mountain here, and you have where they've been floating and they threw them off this cliff. Just being able to do this, you have a couple intelligent choices for trades. Wouldn't you agree? And we can draw a median line very specifically, Evan. Swing to swing. All right? And we're about where we should be, you know, it's giving it a little bit. But what are my two choices for trades here, guys? This is how when I look at this Sunday when I come in, I know I got two basic choices. And this is the beginning of what I want to do with traders is, you know, get things down so trading isn't so crazy and we're not doing so many weird things and emotional things. And we want to do what are the facts, Jack? Hey, this is the whole what are the facts, Jack thing we talked about Friday. You know, you're starting to spin out a little bit. What are the facts, Jack? And we can say the facts are, and we can use significant markings. Basically, we're marking a gap up and we're marking a gap down. And so, yeah, Phil, right, we can go long the green or short the red, right? Make sense? And, Evan, since I can mark things, I know where to draw off the red's going to show me about where the median line is, specifically for the red if I want to. Or I can turn that into a modified Schiff and look at about where that comes in. Okay. So as Phil mentioned, I can go long here, throw stops underneath, or I can go short here, throw stops up here. This is incredible for a trader, just to be able to look at it and say that. I don't know which one's going to work, guys, okay? The market's tilting up. I don't know which one's going to work. I keep getting hammered on my shorts in the CAD. I don't know which one's going to work. But do you see how my decision comes into play? Actually, this guy kind of clued me the other day. I watched this tail happen. But I want everybody to get that. You know, if you can bring things down to there, you make a decision and then you learn from your outcome of that decision. And now you're a trader. You're not a crystal ball person. You're not, hey, I need to rely on this guru to tell me what to do. No, if you can do this, you can tell yourself what to do, be responsible for it, and go from there. That makes sense. You know, I just want you guys to get it, that we can take trading. That takes a lot of intensity out. We can take a lot of the internal garbage we make up out of it. And we can just say, what are the facts, Jack, relative to what we know? Okay, we know swings and we know gaps. What are the facts relative to that? Because the places we get screwed up is because, you know, we're always filtering what is through our past and projecting that into the future, and it leaves stuff out and it adds stuff. And then, you know, we're not seeing very clearly anymore, and then we have a very uncomfortable business meeting with ourselves. It gives us a distorted picture. We are always grabbing our past, what we liked and didn't like about the markets, or this, or I do this, I'm this way, I'm that way. And then we filter that through what's actually going on, right? And project that forward, and then boom, we're seeing something different than what's actually there. And we could say, yeah, the facts are we just made a new high. The facts are we're hitting this gap here, and the facts are we came off of this, right, Phil? And it's about the same size swing. Them are the facts. Now, maybe that doesn't tell me immediately what to do, but them are the facts, right? With those facts, I could say, get me long, get me short. Yes. And then I might have a little more about what the price's story is telling me, okay? But I can always start with some facts based on, you know, whatever I'm looking at. You know, this would be, if I'm doing this, I'm hitting this little try here. But I can always start with some facts and then learn from that. And so the long wouldn't have worked, the short would have worked. And are there some subtle things in there? Yeah. Is this also one of our little patterns we just talked about with an impulse and floating down? Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of twisted, but it's the same thing. I'm going to talk about the facts more on Wednesday. So I wanted to go over that, and I think we'll just wrap it up there. And we'll do a little more on Friday, and we'll get a little more into the pressure cooker lesson. But I just want us all to have we use these tools, okay? We use these tools. And the thing is, we want to use these tools so we understand. Then we want to throw the tools out, all right? The tools are just to get us to understand what's going on with price so we can trade. But then we want to throw the tool out. The pressure cooker, the median line, the setup, whatever. We use these tools to see, but then in the end we want to toss the tool. Because, you know, we don't want to be beholden to the tool either. And this is where we need to get for trading. And you have to be kind of mature to take this approach, because so many people are just offering the answer for something easy. And you can see we can use some simple methods and come to some simple decisions, and then we can work a little bit more and, you know, why might this thing roll over? That kind of thing. Maybe because it's just part of this bigger swing here. And if this thing starts going down, right? You see all that? If this thing starts going down, well, I'm going to keep going down with it. I'm not going to fight it. I'll take it down until it's done going down. Same thing with this yen. How many people fighting this yen because it was going up for a long time? How many? Lenny, right? We caught the turn in the first turn. We caught it in the first turn, and we've been working it ever since. And then we expanded, and we're still going down. See, we're not going to fight it. And as Nate mentioned, we need to notice in our minds when we are just not accepting it, when we have an investment in some idea. And then let that go and get on board. Because this thing could turn around, start going up for another month or so. And if it does that, guess what? We'll adapt. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. Because you'll see me adapt rather quickly to things. Sometimes not, but most of the time you'll see me grab it and adapt rather quickly. Mention the M word, I'm in trouble, Edward says. All right, so let's wrap it up. I'm going to try and get these around, 1:15, make them short. I know I talk too much. So our pound try is still working. We got so much to talk about. But we'll go on. We got all week to talk. Thank you guys for joining up and being here. It's cool. And, take this lesson, where they threw them off the cliff. We can recognize that, especially if you go bar by bar, and see it in your markets. Walk it forward. But learn to see where they throw them up the cliff, too. All right, so see you guys on Wednesday. Thanks, Dave.